Okay, so let's get on to the main presentation, how to use data in marketing to help you grow your sales faster. It's really interesting. We're part of the app. We're developing a financial model, and it's very interesting when you start talking to clients about getting their data. We've got quite a big data project on at the moment to collect the data to validate how much they're spending and what return they're getting on that spend, and how effective it is. And when you start asking questions, well, what's your total revenue? What's your total revenue, and what divided by what the number of sales orders to give us an average value per sale? We're still waiting for an answer for that question. So it's interesting when you start digging down and delving into this stuff, how people don't actually use data, but with digital, it's one of the key things that you need to do in order to make sure you don't waste your revenue, your investment. So we're going to look at why measure your digital marketing activities. We're going to look at measuring different stages of the marketing funnel. So we're going to be talking to the marketing funnel, so that regulars amongst you will know that I talk about the marketing funnel quite a bit. And then look at how to extract the measures for different aspects of digital marketing, how to determine what measures are appropriate for your business. So why is digital marketing? Why is measuring your digital marketing so important? Well, we've got to identify what's working and what's not working. That's absolutely critical, because if things aren't working, you need to fix that. There's no point spending budget on stuff that doesn't work. You're looking for opportunities for improvement. In every area of your business, I'm sure business coaches, consultants, your friends or whatever have told you that change is continuous, improvement is continuous. And if you're not doing that, your competitors certainly will be. Looking at how users interact with you, we've changed. I mean, we've all been pre-COVID, we've been through COVID, now we're coming out of COVID, and each of those times, the way that users interacted changed depending on the situation, and that continues to evolve. How users interact as the technology gets smarter, and we were already seeing lots of discussions about the use of AI. I'm sure you all have played with Chat GPT. If you haven't, look it up on Google and type in some questions. You'll be amazed at the accuracy of the answers. It's not the be all and end all, but it's certainly going to change the way. It's certainly changing the way we do things. Very important as to how you perform against your competition. And I'm not a great believer in following your competition. I always believe in trying to be different from your competition, but you do need to know what your competition are doing, because they might blindside you and come up with an innovation that you haven't thought of, but the market wants, and they may overtake you. So it's important you keep on track with that. And then, as many sales marketing consultants will talk to you about, where are you leaking potential sales? Where are people leaving your funnel when they shouldn't really be leaving your funnel? They call it the leaky bucket syndrome. So from that, we need to put a company dashboard together, something that you track on a weekly, monthly basis. To be honest, having worked with so many companies and talked about this thing, I think I'd be pleased if most companies could produce something monthly. But if you struggle with monthly, then quarterly, but at least do something. I think trying to look at things weekly is too much. But certainly the point is being consistent. So here's some of the things that we're going to be thinking about. What marketing measures put in place. That's calls made, websites. It's surprising. So we asked this question. There's client we're working with at the moment, sort of what response did they get from their direct mail? And they said, we don't know. Okay, so you've not used QR codes, you've not used a different telephone number, you've not, not used a different page on your website. So they're spending what is quite a chunk of money, and they don't know what they're getting back from it. So it's all about thinking carefully about the whole marketing campaign, and part of that marketing campaign is also how are you going to measure it? How do you know you're being successful? And then so I work with another company, well, work with quite a few companies where I say, well, okay, where are your inquiries coming from? And they don't know, because nobody's asking the question. For those businesses where you pick up the phone to receive an inquiry, I know that's becoming a bit of a historical thing, but there are still some businesses that's how they get their inquiries. And so it's important at that point you actually measure where that inquiry comes from. Unfortunately, when you do ask people, where did you find us? Because generally they've hit 6 or 7 of your touch points, they're not actually that sure, but you just still try and ask the question. And then obviously sales revenue, gross profit, and some things like number of customers, regular, recurring, etc. This list is certainly not complete, but you can see that we're looking at the top of the funnel right down to the bottom of the funnel. So some of the actions you can take away: what is important to your business? What do you want to achieve? What does success look like in terms of key performance indicators? Sometimes these are called critical success factors. And what resources do you need to make a company dashboard? There is absolutely no point recording everything if you're not going to record it, if somebody's not going to take ownership and keep that data up to date. What I do suggest is working with another client. We keep all the high-level stats in a spreadsheet, and then we can then drill down into the various tools to get the detail. So it doesn't always have to be in one place, but if you've certainly got a summary, and then you can do a deep dive when things don't look so great. So a few fundamentals. So when measuring workflow, there's always a starting point. Then there's an input. You do something with it, and then an output, and then you measure that output and compare it with what you've input. And that's you'll find in any sort of project, in any key performance indicator book. So we put this into as an example. So Facebook ads is quite good. So the input is ads, audience, and money. You've got to get all those things in the right order. At the start, you then display the ads, and then hopefully the audience click on an ad and buy or place an inquiry, etc. You then measure the effectiveness of that. Did you have the right audience? Have you spent the right amount of money? Are the creative you've used the right? And you've got to do various tests and things to check that. And then obviously the end. So this is how it works in reality. And you need this for every marketing resource that you use. So if you look at a typical eco-marketing system, and it's been interesting, I've been talking to all my LinkedIn over the last probably year, LinkedIn, and a lot of people do get a lot of their inquiries by word of mouth and referral, etc. So don't have something as complex as this. But if you've got an e-commerce shop, or if you are a startup, or if you are actively growing your business, and so therefore you've put some budget aside, you'll probably be doing most of these things. Not obviously the Google shopping for the e-commerce store, but you'll be certainly doing quite a bit of this. You might have some LinkedIn going, you might be doing some SEO, you might be doing some LinkedIn lead generation. You'll certainly have a content plan, etc. And it's surprising how all these things add up. And you need to make sure that each of these is being effective. So we have lead and lag indicators. So, and you need both. Your stats need both. So the lag indicators are the conversations, the inquiries, the sales, etc. They're some time down the road. When you're in marketing, you might you start off with some social media, maybe some email marketing, a website, etc. So it's all these things. And if you don't get the numbers here, you will not get the numbers here. Okay. And if you speak to any sales consultant about conversions, they'll look at, well, how many inquiries you've got leads to how many quotes, to how many sales you've got. And in each stage, there's a conversion ratio. And so the idea is to try and measure stuff right at the start. So if you're not getting the likes, the comments, the shares, and then on social media, the reach, then it's unlikely you're going to get the inquiries or the website visitors. So even in with this list, there's some performance indicators that predict what you might get. So if you're not getting the shares and the reach, then you're not going to get the website visitors, then you're not going to get the web chat conversions. If you don't have enough visitors, you won't have enough web chat. So you can see that the lead indicators predict performance, and then you then need lag indicators to measure it. If you just measure these things with none of this, then you'll never be able to improve the lag indicators. Okay, so we come back to our marketing funnel. So we've got social media, which is all about raising awareness. Yes, you can use Facebook ads to drive sales, but for most people, social media is just about brand awareness, and video more and more is about brand awareness. We've now got a free course on how to use video marketing, which is done by Darren Hutchinson, and he goes through that and what you can do yourself without employing a videographer. Had a very interesting conversation with another client about adding web chat to his website, because they felt they were a premium website. They felt that the web chat wasn't appropriate. I totally disagree with that. If you've not got web chat on your website, then you'll be losing inquiries. They rely on the contact form, but people don't particularly trust contact forms. They're more likely to trust web chat. And then you need some tool or device to capture that email. LinkedIn conversations, reason why we run workshops is so that we can have conversations with our people who are interested in marketing. May not lead to anything, may not lead to a sale, but all that knowledge just develops and gains, and we can fine tune our offering or develop new products and innovate where appropriate when we feel that from the feedback we receive. And then hopefully conversion to some customer inquiry, a quotation, or an order. Sorry, I've just missed a couple of that. What is the chat app you mentioned, please? So what I mentioned earlier, Chat GPT, is run by OpenAI, which is the AI tool. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. And if you just search it now, because don't leave a gap, so it's Chat GPT or one word, it will come up. Sometimes it gets a bit overloaded. If you want a paid for tool, then we use Jarvis.ai to do quick pieces of content, which we then human edit. We would never put a piece of AI written content out there without first going through it. We a lot of time we put it through Grammarly. It's amazing how much Grammarly changes of the words as well from the AI tools. Yeah. So setting objectives, you should all hopefully know this from running a business. So be specific, details of what you exactly want, what need to be done. Measure, can you measure it? And you've got to be careful that measurement doesn't distort the process. There's quite a lot of science around how you measure stuff, but basically, if it's easy to capture, and you might use a proxy. So, for example, it's very hard to measure profit, but it's easy to measure sales. So if somebody does, an accountant does your break-even value and things like that, you can then approximate sales to profit as a proxy. Got to be assignable. You know, somebody's got to be responsible for making this happen. Is it realistic and is it timely? So each of the KPIs you work out need to be like that, so that when you measure something and it's not within your the parameters you want, you can then go and fix it. So determining a metric, you've got to have a vision. What's your overall goal for the metric? It then has to have an objective. Is it specific, time limited objective? What are you going to go use to measure it? And then what does success look like, the target? So we can use this spreadsheet. So you've got the stages of the funnel that we had earlier: awareness, acquisition, engagement, conversion, and retention. And then for each of those, what are we going to use? I'm going to use an example. Makes it a bit easier to understand. So if our vision, if at the awareness stage, our vision is to be seen as the experts, and I would always, for a smaller business, always consider that as a strategy. Pile them high and sell it cheap does work, but you have to be very good at it. There's a certain skill set to it. So most businesses that have any sustainability tend to be at the quality end of the market. In a recession, we call it flight to quality. So vision to be seen as experts. The objective, therefore, is to grow the website traffic. So that's one of our lead indicators. So the KPI is total website visitors, and the target is 5,000 website visitors per month. 5,000 is quite a bit of traffic, by the way. So if you're only getting 1,000, then you're still doing pretty good if you're a small company. Then the attraction stage, you want more people spending time looking at your content. So therefore the parameters to increase visits down on the website. I need to change that slide, as I realized, because now with the new, if you've not changed to the new Google Analytics, please talk to your developer. You should now be using the new Google Analytics GA4, not Universal. If that makes no sense to you whatsoever, you'll learn a bit more later down, later on in the workshop. But it's good. The old analytics disappears in July. They're just going to switch it off. So bounce rate changes to engagement rate. And you want an engagement rate of more than 50%. It was the reverse. It's a better measure. It's a slightly different, not quite. And so if you pull up the recording after, this will be recorded and the slide deck will be available, you can work through the other examples in this slide. I tend to put a lot of content into slides so that they can be used afterwards as worksheets. So a few actions: measure the performance, make sure you can measure the performance of your digital assets. Each platform does have its own stats. As I say, compile a spreadsheet of your monthly dashboard, record at high level and leave the details in the system is what we found works. And then review each month. If you struggle with monthly, move to quarterly and implement a 90-day cycle, which is, we've talked about that in previous workshops. So now I'm going to look at some of the tools. So we're going to look at the free tools. So there's Google Tag Manager. All that does is make it easier for you to manage all the various bits of little code. Tag is really a short name for code, for software code. You may need a little bit of technical help. This is not a lot of work. If somebody goes, well, it's going to cost hundreds, it shouldn't do. It's only about 15, 20 minutes work for a technical person to do. What it does then allow you to do is just give one piece of code to the developer, and then you've got control. You don't need to keep going back to them. Google Analytics is where all the data of what's happening on your site, and we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail. Got Search Console. These are all free tools from Google. They're all pretty good. They do change quite a bit. Looker Studio is Google Analytics GA4, the new one, is a little bit harder to interpret. So so again, with the free data reporting tool, it was called Data Studio, it's now called Looker Studio, allows us to present the information in a usable format to our users. It's not difficult to set up. We've got GT Metrics, which is measuring site speed. We're going to talk about keywords. We're going to talk about social media, LinkedIn pages, Facebook, and Instagram, and email marketing. So Tag Manager looks quite a complex game. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, but basically it's something you can talk to your developer about. And if you can get them to set up the Tag Manager for you, then all the information about the things, Search Console, Tag Manager, any other things you want to put in, Facebook Pixel, etc., can be put in here a lot easier than going into the code. So you only have to change it once in the code, and then everything else you can do through here. And it's how we recommend anybody who wants to connect up things like analytics to or Facebook Pixel to a website. That's what we recommend. So this is a new Google Analytics GA4. It tells you what's happening. So Analytics tells you what's happening on the website at the moment. And so it's got, what the users are doing, what geography it's doing, what time of day it's doing, and it gives you a lot of information about what's happening on your website. And it's an invaluable tool to see what's working and what's not. This tool I love, the Path Exploration tool. You really get to see how people travel through your website. And it's surprising how much work your homepage has to do. And design your homepage so that it takes people on the customer journey is becoming more and more important. And so this is why you're getting more scrollable long pages, because people are looking at it on a mobile app. They don't want to keep going back to the hamburger menu like you would on a desktop. They just want to scroll through it and get the whole story just literally by scrolling through it. And so your homepage does more work, but then you're obviously trying to lead them off via clickable links to your other pages, which can go into a lot more depth, etc. So the Path Exploration tool, it's interactive. So you click on things and you can still go down many rabbit holes, but it's worth probably looking at once a quarter. I would say if you've got if you're not getting too much traffic through your website. If you're an e-commerce site, obviously you're going to be looking at this weekly. This is the Google Search Console. So analytics is what's happening on your website. Google Search Console is what Google is sending to your website. So this is super important. Again, free. There is a little bit techie stuff, about 10 minutes work setting this up. But it's easily done as long as you've got the logins to your hosting and your domain. It can be very quickly set up. And here you can see the number of clicks and the number and total impressions. What I like about it is also tells you which pages are working the hardest. So about 6 years ago, I wrote a piece on challenges facing small and medium-sized businesses. It's dropped down a little bit now because we've redesigned the website, but and other pages have started to rise. But that was carrying a lot of our traffic, and our homepage wasn't actually doing that much. The rest were all insights, blog articles, and this is basically proof that writing blog articles does work. but it does take time to kick in. Not 6 years, obviously, but it does take time. But once you write a good article and you keep it up to date, so every so often I'll go back in and update that. Google, oh, it's been refreshed, and its position improves. So look at you. So one of the problems we had as an agency is we got to report on all our clients, and obviously no client's going to pay you money to sit in front of a screen compiling nice reports. That's not what they're paying you to do. They're paying you to make things different. So we use Google Looker Studio, but it was called Data Studio. So if you look up Google Data Studio, you'll get more information because it only changed about 6 months ago. Works well with other Google systems, sends out reports. So we were paying for a system to do all this. And then when they moved to GA4, our old systems stopped working. So we had to completely revamp what we did. Google Data Studio wasn't the easiest. It's a lot easier to use now. And now we just use it for sending all our reports out. And the nice thing is we can bolt in other things as well. And then once we've got a nice report, we can duplicate it. And so this is the sort of reports that we can kick out automatically and took 5 minutes to set up. So it gives the number of active users, the sessions, the number of views, and 1 day active users. This was one of our sites. So again, it goes into detail, shows again the page path, and again, this is all pulled through from analytics, and it just makes things so much easier. So once you've set it up, you can then just watch this each month, which is how I managed to look at about 30 company profiles each Monday morning, looking for signs of things not going so well and so on. So this is pulls through all the Search Console data. So this is the impressions. It gives you a comparison with previous week's performance. GT metrics. So one of the big things, if you've attended the How to Get to the Top of Google, it's now an online course on the hub. We talk about GT metrics. Every so often, run it through that to find out whether your site's performing. If it's not, because people may have added things to your website, they may have put a big video, they may have put an image up, and if the site's not optimized, then it will degrade. Plugin updates, all sorts of things can cause a website to slow down. So once a quarter or once every 6 months, just run it through GT metrics to give it a check. We talked about in the How to Get to the Top of Google workshop and course. We talk about Uber Suggest a lot. It's a great tool. It's very cheap. I'm not aware of any others that are as cheap as this. There is a free version which will give you some insights. I mean, we use an agency package, sort of strengths package called SEMrush. Some of our clients use Moz, which is slightly lighter weight, but it's got a lot more information in it. But UberCS does a great job. Neil Patel, the guy who set it up, and if you ever want an updated, what's working in digital marketing, then he's the go-to guy. Tracking keywords, what are the keywords you want to be found on, and where you're up to. You can enter those keywords into the system. It'll say, yep, they're doing well or not doing well. If you ever feel that you need to type in your own keywords into Google, always use an incognito window, or I think they're called private window in other ones, because then it's not got your browsing history. If it's got your browsing history, that will affect what you see. So use the incognito window. Websites are always full of errors. We've just gone live with a website, and SEMrush highlighted some links that we'd forgotten about. Very easy because they get hid behind read more and things like that. And if there's been changes to the way things are done, that can break, and you're not aware of it. These tools help you stay on top of it. If you're using an outside provider, then this is a great way to see if they're actually doing what they say they're going to do. LinkedIn company page, the analytics keeps changing. I wouldn't say always improving on LinkedIn, but there is now quite a bit of data on there used to be, all this stuff used to be available on personal pages, but they wanted people more to use company pages from promotions and so on. So the stats you get on the company page are far better. So if you're going to do any promotions, any posting, put it onto the company page first, and then share it onto your own profile afterwards. And that will help you grow your number of likes on the company page. And always, you know, if you get a chance, go and invite people to like your page or follow your page. I tend to follow people's pages. I don't subscribe to newsletters. I've got enough junk in my box. But occasionally, if I'm subscribed to it and they've put something up, it'll pop up in my feed. I check my feed pretty much every day, liking and commenting on, you know, only a few minutes, 15 minutes tops. You know, going through what's happening with my network. The feed, the LinkedIn, I got 30,000 connections, so my LinkedIn feed used to be rubbish. But if you like and comment on the stuff you do like, so I comment on all the client stuff, you get all the useful stuff in your feed. You do have to keep it up to date. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if you're outreaching, if you're doing B2B and you're selling to specific clients rather than being a distributor or whatever, then Sales Navigator is an invaluable tool. And again, we've got a free course on how to use LinkedIn on the platform, on the hub. And this gives you, this stat used to look a lot better for me. I'm doing less work on LinkedIn, but I still use it a lot. We're having a conversation with everyone on my LinkedIn connections, going through the 30,000. Having some great conversations with people, getting that market research, you know, what's actually happening on the ground, what people are doing. Facebook have got some great stats. Again, this slide will have, this content will have changed because Facebook keeps changing. They're reacting to TikTok. And I noticed the other day I posted something onto my Facebook. I have a quite private Facebook, and they shoved it onto my Instagram. So, and didn't ask me permission, they just did it. So I'm thinking, okay, that's another change. So continually changing. We've got Facebook Meta now for the page, but they do have some good stats. And again, get the headline stats out of there. Post reach is important, and post engagement is important. It's not about collecting likes, it's about getting engagement. And again, you can see which, this is super important, you know, which post actually worked, which ones are people are really interested in, and it gives you the stats per post. And then you know what content you need to focus on. Useful. So we've just recruited our marketing operations manager, and he used to work at Social Chain. So we're getting some top tips, hopefully, how we can move up that and compete better with that. But they're massive, they're huge. Instagram, again, quite a good, useful bunch of stats. You know, what's worked, what's not worked, what the audience is. And again, more stats, you know, spend some time looking at this. Don't record more than a spreadsheet, but record the headline ones. You know, what's the follower growth and, you know, how many followers you're adding. And, you know, how's your audience developing? What's the age group of your audience? Because that'll affect the content you put out there. Email marketing. So this is a dashboard from Sending Blue. And the critical ones for email marketing is, you know, how many people have opened it as a percentage of what you've sent out, how many people have clicked through, and how many have unsubscribed. You just watch that unsubscribe rate. If you're sending out poor content, and we've done quite a few mail shots, that's why this list is quite high in proportion, and that's over a period of time. So you've seen the list. You've seen the list get smaller. It does improve. The list is improving. It's a bit like a good wine. It'll improve over time as you do more work with it. But just be aware that the number of people you're sending out to will reduce over time. Video becoming super important. So looking at, this is from, what we do is we put all our videos onto Vimeo and then pull them through into websites, etc. It means we then get some great stats as to what's happening. Vimeo seems to be a nice, stable, easy to use platform. There are others. I wouldn't use YouTube purely because YouTube will then try and take them off somewhere else. Whereas here, if you use Vimeo, they will just be showing your videos and nothing else. So a few actions. So set up and view Google Analytics, Search Console, have a play with Ubersuggest. If you really want to understand Ubersuggest, then we've got the free online course, How to Get to the Top of Google, which is on the hub. And then also, as I've said, part of what you need to do is look at what your competitors are doing, and so use Ubersuggest to research what keywords your competitors are doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're not spying. It's just looking at where you're getting up to. Definitely run your site through GT metrics. And if you've got a developer or anybody doing SEO, then if your score is not an A, if you're using a developer, that is, if you're not an A or a B, then there's a conversation to be had. And then capture all the key stats on your social media platforms and say put them into your dashboard. And then review the stats from your email marketing. If you've not got yourself a little email newsletter to your customers, then I would strongly suggest you do. If you don't have time, do it quarterly. But something that's authentic, doesn't have to be nicely designed. It has to look obviously nice and reflect your brand, etc. But don't go in and put in loads of pictures and things, because when I look at email in Outlook, it has all the images off, as most people do. Different if you're sending to Apple phones and things like that. But just be aware that half your audience might not actually see your pretty pictures. So the email.
Just a question in chat. How did you get the email marketing stats, please? Okay,
so we those stats were in Ubersuggest. Sorry, not in Ubersuggest, in Sendinblue. There should be a report that you can click on. So you'll see a campaign. This doesn't matter which, whether you're using Active Campaign, Sendinblue, or Constant Contact, whatever. It should produce a report, and you should be able to view that report, and you should be able to see who's unsubscribed, who's opened the click-throughs. What we used to say quite some time ago is, if somebody's clicked through more than 2 or 3 times, actually give them a call. But nobody uses the phone anymore, so that advice kind of fell by the wayside. But you could certainly, maybe go, oh, that's interesting. It depends on the value of the sales and how much that lead's worth to you. Does that help, Lynn? Okay. But yeah, there should be a report next to each campaign as to the performance of that campaign. Okay, some paid for tools. So we're big users of SEMrush. It does a site audit, and we target. We haven't been doing much work on our site because it's literally got replaced last Friday. So we normally go for 90+%. It's very difficult to get past 95 because you then you've all heard of the Pareto rule. You can achieve 80% of what you want with 20% effort, and then the rest of the time is spent getting that other bit. But we try and push past 90, but then into the law of diminishing returns after that. We look at the position rankings. So we've got our bunch of keywords, and then SEMrush will keep track of that. And we do this for each client to make sure that their position's growing. You can track social media, but we don't tend to do that. We use a thing called Social Champ for all our social media posting, scheduling, and monitoring. And then we've got brand monitoring, backlink audit. People will connect to your site that are very toxic. Where Google has said these guys are spammers, and you have to do what's called disavow. But again, that's in the how to get to the top of Google. There are tools here for using link building. We don't tend to do too much of that, but only for very specific clients. And then, how many sessions, etc. But it's a great tool. Allows us to really understand where the issues are on the site. These are our two main tools. We were using Hootsuite. We've now moved to Social Champ, but I did like the stats that came out of Hootsuite. They were very good. As you can see, quite a lot of detail as to what's worked and what's not worked, and what channels worked and what channels not worked. This is Social Champ stats. As you can see, it's not quite as detailed, but I never understood as an agency, Hootsuite's pricing never made any sense. It seemed to get more expensive per channel than cheaper. So we use Social Champ, which does great. Because you're only looking for, these are the top stats. How's the audience growing? How's the engagement? How many impressions are you getting, and is there any brand awareness? And you can get detailed stats and zoom in on these things, and you just see these spikes of posts going out. So what we recommend is the overall actions is flowchart your digital marketing processes like we showed very early on. And then I go in there and identify the key measure points to measure, create a dashboard, and then if you're using something like Google Data Studio or Looker Studio is now, then schedule a report once a month. It's great. I do it for 7 o'clock in the morning. The stuff, just as I'm sort of getting started, and I quickly run through everybody's stats. And within half an hour, I've got a good understanding of what the priorities are for the month in terms of improving the performance. And then you can sit down and do what we call a retrospective with your team and say, right, okay, this has worked, this has not worked, etc. And then the key bit is to set up projects to improve performance. Okay, we've got a few minutes left, so I'll just end the show. Has anybody got any questions that they would like to just to pick up and talk about?
Peter.
Hi,
yeah.
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. And you? Hootsuite, it used to be rumoured that it would be blocked or barred from certain platforms, that they would prefer, natural scheduling. Is that an old myth or outdated? It certainly doesn't presumably happen with Social Champ.
Okay, so it was a couple of years ago now. The channel seemed to have settled down to the fact that people want to measure what's going on. But I would say probably 3 or 4 years ago, we had a complete nightmare because we were using Buffer, we've used Hootsuite. They're all systems to measure activity. And so it wasn't just Hootsuite related, it was to other platforms as well. And they kept changing what we call the APIs, a bit of software that allows two systems to talk to each other. I haven't seen anything recently, not in the last couple of years. I think they've all settled down to the fact that people will be scheduling posts and things. I mean, Meta for Business, Facebook, are really pushing their tools. So you never know, we might end up in an API war again. But I hope not.
So
Yeah.
that they're letting think, you know, Meta's not obstructing a scheduling tool.
Not anymore. No,
Not
no.
anymore.
We've had real issues with Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn were dreadful for it for a while. They kept just randomly changing their API, and we'd have to reconnect everything up again. But I think they've all accepted that it's a fact of life.
Right. Great.
Well, I hope
Thank
so.
you.
Anyway. If anybody else got any more questions? We've got a couple of minutes left. Nope. Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending today. I hope you did find it. I hope you found it useful. We've so the next month's time. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. The recordings and transcript will be on the Vision to Success website in the next day or so, and an email will be sent out to everyone who's registered. So when you've received that email, you'll be able to look at it. As I say, the slide deck does have quite a lot of information in it, so hopefully you found that useful. In a month's time, on February the 22nd, I'll be doing the presentation on how to select the best marketing strategy for your business. This is all tied in with developing the app that we're developing, and we could be super excited to be able to show that to you one day. We're not quite there yet because we decided it needed a wizard, so that you just followed the wizard and it asked you all the relevant questions. So I'll be taking you through that. And to find out more and to book on the next event, either click on the link in the email that you receive or go to the event section on Vision to Success. So thank you very much and have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you in a month's time. Thank you.